Hello, my lovely. You didn't get to where you are in your business by doing shit the way that everybody else does. And you know that what got you to where you are now is not going to get you to where you want to be. And if you are listening to this podcast, it's because you want to be the go-to for what you do better than anyone else. Your brilliance is the niche. Being you, that bold, unfuckwithable presence that you've secretly been craving to set free, she is in there. And that means you will have to burn some old bridges down. And attracting your people will also repel those who are not for you. Fucking hooray. Becoming a force of nature business and brand means no more Miss People Pleaser, no more hiding your turbo brain, no more dimming down jack shit. And if you have ever been told to tone it down as a woman with ADHD, it's time to tone your shit all the way the fuck back up. That is how you create unstoppable momentum in your business and visibility that is something you've been avoiding, but that you truly want. This podcast is about stepping into your upgrade, watering down anything, never change the fucking world. You were not born to be forgettable. And as one of my all-time favorite quotes says, well-behaved women rarely make history, and nothing about you or me is well-behaved. At least not anymore. In today's episode, we are going to discuss your business ecosystem when it comes to marketing, what that actually is, what it can look like, and why there's no one right way to grow and expose your business to your people. I'm also going to walk you through a few real life examples, including mine and two of my clients, so you can see what this looks like more in practice, because our ADHD-ass brains need to see things to believe them, and abstract concepts may be cute, but I want to give you something tangible. One last thing before we continue. Now that you've found me, go follow me on Instagram to stay in touch with me at Carry Out Loud. And once you do that, you've officially joined my girl gang, the Feral Women's Club. I got you. Welcome back to the ADHD Entrepreneu, the podcast for my fellow feral online coaches with ADHD who refuse to play by the fucking rules. My name is Carrie. I am your host. I am the chief weirdo of Carry Out Loud. And if you are new here, welcome. I'm so glad you found me. Now that you have, stick around, follow, subscribe, do all that good stuff to get that little push notification reminder every week. If you are here because you are so done feeling behind, you're not, by the way, and you're ready to see that clear business growth path that your body and ADHD-ass brain are both saying a full body yes to, you're in the right place. I will brainwash you into believing in yourself if you stick around me long enough. That's a promise. And if this episode lands for you, would you please freaking tell me? Shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's where I hang out. And if you're digging me as a human, while you're listening, book a clarity call with me to see if we vibe in person. If that's something you want to do, the link for that is in the show notes. Here's what's at the real core of what I do. I know that you crave making an impact. I want you to create your ripple effect in your way without burning out, because I have helped women out of burnout, and I can genuinely say I can help you avoid it altogether if you're willing. When I see a woman come into my universe who's on the brink of burnout, who does not have her gap in self-trust, that self-trust gap closed from a later life ADHD diagnosis or late identified ADHD, who is overwhelmed, has an overcomplicated business, then it makes no sense because it's built on taped together normie strategies. And then I get to help her see that it can actually be done differently, that her growth is doable and real. I know how life altering that is because I witness it day in and day out. I will tell you what I tell my clients: you are an Apple, and the normie coaches keep trying to hand you Android as an operating system, and you need iOS, and I have that. I'm literally designed, as in I'm an emotional 3-5 manifesting generator and a Cancer with a lot of water placements. So that means I'm really designed to help you do two things. It is closing that self-trust gap, because You were told you were wrong about your gut instincts when you were not, and that would make anyone stop trusting themselves. And two, you need to simplify your business in order to grow it in a way that's sustainable. I also know you need to see a fellow feral ADHDs woman, a human like you, who's sweary and raw and unfiltered and gritty and just shows up as they are, saying these inside things to you out loud. This way, you will also know this is possible for you big time. So let's talk shop, shall we? What is a business ecosystem? Let's start there. In my world, it's the places and spaces that you show up to actively market your business. That's really it. Where are you? And is it working for you? And most women I talk to who have ADHD, who are in the online coaching arena, they think they need to be everywhere all at once, all the time. And I know that is what the normie coaching world has been screaming at us for years. Be on Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and Pinterest and have a newsletter and have a podcast and show up live every week. And girl, that is called the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. That is not a business strategy. That is a breakdown waiting to happen. So unless you have a larger team that is built to handle that, the goal is to pick a few intentional places so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket and not running yourself into the ground trying to be everywhere yourself, because you're seeing people everywhere. You're seeing people who are in multiple spaces. They have somebody helping them show up in those places. 9 times out of 10, they're not doing it themselves at this point in their business, right? So unless you have that team, and that's something you may want down the road, but unless you do, and that's not where you're at right now, you got to stop. You got to stop the madness. So here's what this can look like. Instagram and a podcast and a newsletter, in-person and digital, Facebook and in-person events, tapping into your network to present inside other people's programs and masterminds, virtual, in-person, options. I think sometimes because we're on specific parts of social media that we think like that's the only place. But there are so many different places you can get exposure by repurposing. But there's a time and a place for that. So I'm going to go through the 3 mistakes that I see my clients making day in and day out when they come to me, that I see on repeat. So before I get into these examples of different ecosystems, what they can actually look like, my actual client examples, here are the 3 things that I knew I'd be doing you dirty if I didn't tell you. Number 1, I've already kind of alluded to. Too many places, too fast, all by yourself. They are doing too many things in too many places before they need to be. They're following that normie coaching advice that says, show up everywhere all at one time, and wondering why the fuck they're burned out. Now, like I said, once you have a team, maybe, but most women I work with are at that point where they're still doing business by themselves, possibly has a small team, and they are looking to grow, right? But a lot of them are still doing it themselves, trying to juggle all that and wondering why they can't push past that revenue block they're sitting at. And I'm like, oh, I see it. I see it clearly. It's right there and right there and right there. And when you do this, it's really like a recipe for burnout, resentment, and eventually quitting something you were truly built to do. That's number 1. Mistake number 2, all new all the time instead of going all in. Now, this one is close to my heart because I have lived it. Okay. So I speak about this from a place of true knowledge here. I did not trust myself to go all in on something and refine over time. My clients will come and they'll be afraid they can't carry the bigger thing because of past failures or because they had undiagnosed ADHD and have a whole catalog of evidence saying you don't finish shit, which isn't true. We don't finish shit we don't care about and we're not interested in. Or we get bored. Like, that's the reality. We have interest-based, novelty-based brains. Like, that's what we love. That's what you have to build into your business, by the way. But instead of rolling with what you need to do to go in on that thing, it's that all new all the time is what it takes to get more eyeballs and more growth, new offers, new colors, new website copy, new fonts, new programs. And they just keep redoing things before they actually have a solid foundation. I have seen this. They will not allow themselves to sit in the sweet spot and pocket and do the couple of things that they need to do. Instead, they'll spiral. So I want you to reframe this real quick. I have an example of why this matters, of exactly why it matters to start somewhere and let it grow and evolve. Think about Spanx. Sarah Blakely went all in on one product, one. And she expanded as it naturally expanded. But she started with that red box and the suck it in smoothers, right? I don't even know what they're called because I never actually wore them, but I know her brand is fucking huge, right? Once that was solidified, then she started expanding. And I don't think it was for a few years, several years, actually. She didn't launch 14 things in 6 months and wonder why nothing was gaining traction, right? If you believe in the work you do, in the coaching you do, in the way that you do things, go all in and refine over time. That is the move, right? So let me give you a little bit of the origin story on the Neurospicy Sisterhood, because that wasn't what it was originally called. The Neurospicy Sisterhood is my mastermind. I have 2 levels. I have foundations and I have amplify. One is to make sure you're on that solid ground, and the other one is to take the solid ground you're on and turn the volume up. Okay. So that's what the sisterhood is now. It used to be something else, but I will tell that story a little bit later. This was post-diagnosis. I was in the bathtub and I just thought to myself, wow, I think I should have some office hours for ADHD entrepreneurs, because back then I had a lot wider demographic. I've definitely niched down a lot. And so I went in the tub, I created the graphic, I posted it in the car on the way to a concert before I did anything else. And this was called the ADHD Entrepreneur Office Hours. And it evolved from a membership into a Neurospicy Sisterhood mastermind, into a mastermind. And I allowed it to evolve instead of blowing it up and starting over. And what I did was I had incredible women inside who I loved coaching, and they were so coachable and they were growing. And I made a couple of tweaks that just, I saw them start having exponential growth, right? So had I not started that membership and allowed it to evolve and grow and change the price point and do those things over the last couple of years, it wouldn't be where it is today, straight up, which would suck. Ask the members inside. They would be sad, right? So I just want you to understand that I'm not talking about this as a concept. I've lived it, right? And the last mistake that I see often is working against your natural effing rhythms. Girlfriend, they will come to me working against their natural rhythms, against their brains instead of with them. They're listening to normie business growth shit that's all built for linear thinkers or thinkers who are coloring in the lines and thinking inside the box. And we're divergent. Straight up, we're divergent. So accepting your neurodivergence and seeing it as an asset, not a detriment, is key. And that looks like simplification and self-trust, right? Self-trust in order to go in on the thing you know you are amazing at, and simplifying everything so that you have this very clear, wide open path to you. But when you have a loud, overcomplicated business that is everywhere and it makes no sense in all kinds of places, this is what happens because you've taken normie business strategies and taped them all together from great coaches, I'm sure, but they just didn't understand your brain, your ADHD brain, right? And so it doesn't work, and it never worked. Well, now we know why. Now we know why, right? You've probably never been coached by somebody with a brain like yours. So let me give you some of the real life examples. One of my clients, this is the good stuff. I'm going to show you what a couple of these ecosystems look like, because there's no one way. And I'm going to walk you through these 2 clients, and then I'm going to walk you through my own so that you can see the whole thing, how it all evolved, not just the sisterhood, but my entire business ecosystem and my offers, etc. So the first is a podcast-led ecosystem. My client, when she came to me, she had a podcast. It was getting solid eyeballs. Her SEO was on point. She was definitely getting traction and access, but she wasn't getting anybody booking calls, couldn't understand. And her Instagram posting was kind of hit or miss because she was more solid over on YouTube. She saw herself getting more traction on YouTube. And that's where her podcast was growing along with, Apple and Spotify, the normal places. So instead of saying, okay, you need to go post a whole bunch more content, I looked at what she had and I said, let's lean into the podcast because that was her strength. That was her strength. That's where people were already showing up for her. We added a newsletter as the second resource, and she did a call to action on her podcast to get into her newsletter. Hello, it's an ecosystem. And I want to sidebar on this real quick for a second. A podcast is a free resource. So is a newsletter. If you don't like creating freebies, there are other ways. We can create freebies and have fun with it, or we can create a different type of freebie where it's a little bit more longer form, right? Still free information. But this is a free resource. So is that newsletter. And because we tend to be wordy people and have a lot to say, podcasts, newsletters, Substack, things like that give you the ability to be more and show more of those layers if that is what you love to do. Now, her podcast has a simple CTA of following her, joining her newsletter, listen to the podcast. That's it. And because we added calls to action, now I have to check with her and see how many episodes she had before we added calls to action. But once we added calls to action, it was on like Donkey Kong, especially when she added the newsletter, right? So now she has so many leads she doesn't know what to do with. And we're working through that now because we don't want her burning through these leads and not having these appointments made. But we are refining her system because we're there now. Right? I wouldn't tell her to refine her system the moment we walked in because we weren't there yet. We're going to refine the foundational pieces and go as we move along, adding in what we need to add in when it is time, right? So before working together, she did not have leads for months, even with a growing podcast, and it took a few tweaks. That was it. It was those calls to action and the newsletter. She was off to the races. And sometimes my clients are a few tweaks away that they cannot see because they're too close. It's like putting your nose on a mirror and trying to see your whole face. You can't, right? It's hard when we're inside of our own business to see those things. But I was able to see it clearly what was lacking. And now she has more leads than she knows how to handle and new clients. And that is really freaking exciting. So her ecosystem is her podcast, her newsletter, YouTube, repurposed from the podcast. That's it. And sometimes she'll do posts on Instagram when she feels like it, right? Example 2, local and digital hybrid. This is one of my favorites. This is super fun. One of my clients came to me. She'd been in business close to 2 years. She came to me with no systems. Her revenue was kind of plateaued at that point. She had a membership she didn't feel was growing. She had worked with another coach, a freaking fantastic coach who I love, who I've worked with, but that coach just had a different skill set than I did. So when she hired me, I was all up in it with her, hands-on in her business, screen sharing, like in the trenches, and we were in this together. The first thing we did was get her initial set of systems in place and get her an optimized website because that was what was important to her, because she was also hyper local. She has a local studio and an online arm. Before, she did not have the online studio when she hired me. This is something she did. She leased a space locally so that she could get her practice of what she does out of her home, right? And so once we got this studio, she got the studio in place. She has these two sides to her business. We made sure that her website was pulling weight on both ends. And so now she's on Instagram and has a website. But like I said, she was doing that work out of the home. And so she has that rented space in dead center, middle part of her city. And she sees her in-person clients there. That place has really changed everything for her energy, how she shows up. She's decorating it how she loves. And I'm not saying, everything goes perfect with every change and growth you make, because, there's oftentimes a little bit of business puberty going on, and it happens repeatedly. There's these parts where we're like, why do I feel so uncomfortable? It's because you're about to burst through, because you're trying to come out of the cocoon, I guess would be the way. So back to the client, we added a newsletter that I believe she does monthly, or she may just do it when she feels like it, which is fine because she also has a monthly subscription. But she sends out those newsletters fairly regularly when she feels like it, because there's no one way to do anything. And she needed something that felt sustainable and manageable, something more like monthly or every couple of weeks. That felt like that was it. And she also outsourced several hours of work that she'd been doing herself, things she could hand off to someone she trusted. If she found somebody she trusted, and then she was able to free up that time so that she can focus in a different direction. Her updated website is optimized for local, hyper local, and globally. And she is in the middle of, like I said, that business puberty, because she is growing exponentially. She had her highest revenue month in December after being stuck around a similar revenue for a while. And she initially built her business in 4 a.m. and weekends. She's just a go-getter. I just adore her. But we've been navigating this, right? So she knows who her ideal client is like the back of her hand. Her messaging is just, she's been showing up like gangbusters. So it's been really fun to watch her grow. So let's talk about her ecosystem. In-person studio, Instagram, and a newsletter when she feels like sending it. Some people like to have a newsletter that's every week or every month. Others like to just send in the moment. I do a combination. Sometimes I'll send something in the moment. I have a newsletter, and then I send out my sales emails, right? Because that's part of our job. So we started with what she had, and then I was able to help her walk across the bridge in some of these these places that were taking up her energy and time, so that she could start to have that growth. And now she's had it. So now don't get mad, but next week in part 2, I am going to pull back the curtain on my own ecosystem. I am going to walk you through what it looked like when it felt chaotic as hell, how it evolved, how it looks now. And I promise you, it's not complicated. It's not as complicated as you think it needs to be. That I know. Our brains are layered and complex, but your business needs to be simple. That is how you are able to carry it with a lot more ease and a lot more flow. So with that, I'm going to end today's episode. If you're an online coach and you think or know you have ADHD and you want a sustainable long-term business growth in a way you can also grow and evolve with and make fuck you money while you're at it, talk to me. Book a call. I got you. Since we like to know what comes next, once you book the call, you and I'll chat about your business on that call, where it is, what your goals are, and I will tell you if I can help you or not. And then we go from there. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So get into my email universe by becoming an insider. My newsletter is exclusively for female founders who are coaches. So if you think or know you have ADHD, get inside. Until next week, I see you. I love you. I'm rooting for you always. Don't be mad because there's part 2. It's going to be really good. So come back next week. Stay feral, okay? Okay. Bye. Oh, hey, you're still here. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Be sure to check out the show notes for all the ways to follow me. And of course, my goal is to find and help as many women with ADHD get away from the 9-to-5 grind, because it's just not designed for our neurospicy brilliance, and there are other ways to do life. So by subscribing, sharing, and giving a 5-star review, it helps other women find this podcast as well. And if there's an episode you really love, please feel free to take a screenshot and share it on your social and tag me in it so that I can thank you personally. Until next time, you spicy brained unicorn. Bye.